All right. Good morning, everybody. We are starting a little bit later than usual. I was having some technical issues, but it looks like we are going. Good morning, Shia Girl, 18. Good morning, Ponytail. It's good to see all of you here. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I hope that you're having a very blessed Saturday morning. I'm excited to get into today's message. We're continuing on in the story of Joseph. And today, specifically, we're going to be talking about reconciliation when it comes to dealing with toxic family members and narcissistic abuse, especially within the family. And so reconciliation is different than forgiveness. And we are going to see how, in the story of Joseph, in the ancient literature of the Old Testament of the Bible, how Joseph tackles and handles this very difficult idea of reconciliation, what it means to reconcile, and how, after you have been hurt in very evil ways by narcissism, how you can even start to go and move towards reconciliation, because it's not easy and it's not something we should just step into lightly. So we're going to follow along in Genesis chapter 44 today in order to do that. And so happy to see all of you here. Let's open up in prayer. Before we open up in prayer, I just want to welcome you once again. For those of you who are new to Royal We Fellowship, welcome. If you would like to support Royal We Fellowship, you can do so in the links down below. Your support is appreciated. It's not required, but rather if you're inspired to be a supporting member of Royal We Fellowship. And with that, I'm happy that you're here. And so let's open up in prayer. Our Father, who are in heaven, how holy is your name, and your kingdom will come, and your will shall be done here on this earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day and each and every day our daily bread, and forgive us of our sins, as we forgive those who have sinned against us. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from the evil that's in this world. And for thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. And everybody says, amen. And with that, let's go ahead and get into this. Now, the idea and the concept of reconciliation versus forgiveness is something that we often think about. And today we are going to be looking at reconciliation from a perspective of an Old Testament Bible story, because a lot of us get trapped in thinking that forgiveness means reconciliation. Reconciliation means forgiveness, especially when we are coming out of toxic relationships with family members, people who we believe should be important in our life. What we are discovering to this point in the story of Joseph is that family that you've come from, parents, brothers, and sisters, are not, in fact, that important to the course of your life. Joseph is a perfect example of this, because his family, his brothers, rejected him, and the Egyptians now have taken Joseph in, and Joseph has become the second most powerful person in Egypt underneath the Pharaoh. And so this is a huge position for a Hebrew boy to grow up and become in the ranks of the highest of the high of the Egyptians. And in this, what Joseph has discovered is that he has a new family. He's now Egyptian. And so if there's any indication that you are not where you came from, if there's any story that allows us to understand the principles that you are not your parents, you are not your brothers and sisters, you are not, there's no rule that says you have to be a part of their clan or their anything. You have the opportunity and the ability to move to a whole new area, to have a whole new family. And this is what happened to Joseph by accident, but it proved to be something successful for him. Where his brothers rejected him, the Egyptians took him in and have now crowned him as the second in command. And now watch this. This is where the story gets very interesting. So we're in chapter 44 of Genesis, and here we go. Joseph has come face to face with his brothers, the same brothers who rejected him, the same family that threw him in a pit, the same brothers that he overheard talking about killing him when he was just a boy. The pain and the trauma associated with what he experienced with his brothers is off the charts. I would say that this would probably be one of the most uncomfortable situations. How would you feel? How would you react? How would you respond if you came face to face with people who you once loved, but who tried to kill you? Talk about a very surreal experience. And yet we find Joseph in this situation. And I believe what made this somewhat easier on Joseph was the fact that they did not recognize him. Joseph now no longer looks like their little brother. Joseph now looks like an Egyptian. Joseph, most likely, especially being the second in power, the second in authority, a high political figure in ancient Egypt, Joseph is most likely has the headgear on, the old Egyptian thing we see in the artwork of Egypt. A lot of the big headdress, the makeup, the eyes look different, right? And the men, even in ancient Egypt, especially those in power, did in fact wear makeup. They had indications, they had signifiers of their authority and their position. So Joseph would have been almost completely masked, being the second under Pharaoh. So his brothers didn't even recognize him. There was no way they could. And so in this, Joseph knew that, but he recognized them. So he had to fight back the feelings of facing his abusers, facing the toxic siblings, facing the ones who he knows deep down is evil. And this is what's important for you to understand. And so he invites them in. And he did have a moment of crying where he had to go and he had to cry. Because for a moment, he remembered the abuse. He knows the toxicity in that dynamic, yet he knows they're also his brothers. He wants to bless them. He wants to make sure that his father is able to eat food. He wants to make sure that they aren't starving to death because there's a famine that's taking place. And again, the reason Joseph is in authority is because God positioned him there because of the famine. God gave Joseph the wisdom to take care of everybody in the famine. So despite his brothers wanting to kill him when he was younger, Joseph, his heart, which is the reason God has him in that position, is that he wants to make sure they're fed. But Joseph has another interesting potential here because he could just give him food and send him on his way, and never see him again and live happily as an Egyptian for the rest of his life. He's married. He has his own kids. He doesn't need his brothers in his life. He doesn't need his father in his life. But he's in an interesting place now because now he can say, well, wait a minute. What if I could have my brothers back in my life? What if there's a chance that they've changed? And this is something that we often ask, can narcissists change? Can the evil of narcissistic people change? It's not easy to find out, and it's not something that you can just ask a narcissist, have you changed, by the way, or are you still evil? No. If there's anything we're about to see from the story of Joseph, it's that a very deep, elaborate test needed to be done. And now we need to understand something. Joseph has already reached forgiveness. And real quickly, let's talk about the moment Joseph understood forgiveness, okay? The moment Joseph saw his brothers and they bowed down before him, not knowing it was him, Joseph reached forgiveness. Because it says that Joseph turned away and he remembered the dreams he had as a boy. What were the dreams that Joseph had as a boy? Joseph dreamed that his wheat was standing upright and all of his brothers' wheat was bowing down before him. That was the dream. So the moment Joseph saw his brothers, the same brothers who rejected him, bowing down, Joseph remembered his dreams and he said, oh my gosh, the reason I had those dreams is because God was telling me where I would be. The only reason I'm here where I'm at is because my brothers rejected me, which brought me here. You understand this? This is, I believe, the moment that true forgiveness. All of a sudden, Joseph was no longer angry at his brothers. How could he be? He now sees that what his brothers did was a part in God getting him to a place in Egypt where he was second in command. That's called forgiveness. He no longer wanted to hurt them. Instead, he wanted to say, wow, Lord, I get it. He remembered the dreams. Okay, I get it. I'm second in command now. I have a great life. I'm rich, I'm wealthy, I am in charge of whether or not people live or die. Quite literally. Joseph was in charge of whether people live and die because of the famine. Wow, God, you picked me for this position, and it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't first rejected. All right? That's forgiveness. And it was at that moment that Joseph didn't want to hurt his brothers and he didn't want to revenge, right? That's forgiveness. When you are not seeking revenge on people who have hurt you, you have reached forgiveness, because that's all forgiveness is. It means you get it. You understand that you're in a different place now. You understand, and you don't desire to hurt the other person. That is forgiveness. Now, that's not reconciliation. Reconciliation is two people coming back together in agreement to build a relationship. That's reconciliation. Joseph is not there with his brothers yet. What we are about to see is Joseph now testing. Can I have a relationship with my brothers? Can I let them know who I am? Up to this point, Joseph is just an Egyptian to him. They don't know it's him. So Joseph tests them, and in the test, Joseph has to use narcissistic gaslighting techniques. The difference between Joseph doing this and his brothers is that Joseph is not doing it out of anger, not doing it out of envy, not doing it out of jealousy. Joseph is doing what he's about to do, which is a gaslighting narcissistic technique involving different key players. He's setting the stage, much like narcissists do, but he's doing it for a purpose. He's doing it for a good reason. He's doing it to test the hearts of righteousness versus evil. So here we go. The test of true sacrificial empathy, the test of reconciliation. And I would encourage you, this doesn't mean to go out and try to test family members or anything like that, because understand, and we'll talk about why this is important here, but Joseph is in a new place. He's in a place of authority. He doesn't need his brothers. He doesn't need the family that he came from. He's trying to make the determination of whether or not he's capable of even being associated with them. This is a different test, okay? This isn't a test of playing games. This is a test of, should I send you away, fed, and never have a relationship with you again? I'd still live as an Egyptian, live the rest of my days, you go live the rest of your days, or can I reveal who I am to you? And can I trust and see, have you changed? Do you have empathy? Do you have understanding? Has God given you wisdom as you have grown? Okay, so let's see this. Test of true sacrificial empathy, the test of reconciliation, chapter 44 of Genesis, verse 1. Now Joseph has given these instructions to the steward of his house. Fill the men's sacks with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sacks. Then put my cup in the silver one. Put my cup in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. Now, this is significant for a couple of reasons. So Joseph is setting a stage. Put my cup, my prized cup, right? We're gonna set the stage and make it look like they are stealing from us. Okay, put my prized cup in the mouth of the sack of the youngest brother. This is significant for a couple of reasons. Number one, the youngest brother happens to be Joseph's biological brother from both mom and dad. They share the same mom and dad. The other brothers are from different mothers. Important aspect number one. The second one is that it's the youngest. Okay, both these things are important because remember, the older brothers threw Joseph in a pit, wanted to kill him when they were younger. Why? Because he was the youngest one and because he was of the different mother and father. So Joseph's playing against them using the same situation, the same half-brother that they have, and the fact that he's the younger one, he's the helpless one. So what Joseph is testing is he wants to see how those older brothers are going to respond and react to this youngest brother about to get in big trouble. This is the test. And Joseph instantly had put this together. There's this saying that in the New Testament of the Bible, when certain times arise, trust that the Lord will give you the wisdom and the insight and the right things to say. And this is this. Joseph would have had no way to prepare this. He didn't think about this ahead of time. He didn't prepare this staged event. This came to him instantly. And this is what happens a lot of times if we're living authentically, we will instantly be told this is what we should do. This is how we can have this conversation. It's not something we need to take years to plan, okay? This just happened almost instantly for Joseph. It made sense, in other words, to test in this manner. So Joseph is setting the stage to test his brothers for possible reconciliation. Not forgiveness, but reconciliation. So again, Joseph is in the power and in the authority to do so because his brothers are in need. He's using gaslighting techniques to confuse them, not for fun, but for a purpose. And he wants to reconcile to discover if he either sends them away and never talks to them again, or if he allows them into his life. This is the only reason you should ever test toxic, narcissistic family members, siblings that you've left. It's for the possibility of reconciliation. It's the possibility to see if they've changed. It's the possibility to see if they can go their own way and you can go yours, or if they're able to be in your life. This is the only way. It's not for revenge. None of that nonsense. Chapter 3. Not chapter 3, verse 3. As morning dawned, the men were sent on their way with their donkeys. They had not gone far from the city when Joseph said to his steward, "Go after those men at once. And when you catch up to them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this the cup that my master drinks from and also uses for divination? This is a wicked thing that you have done.'" So he sends a steward to say, "Go catch those guys and tell them that one of them has stolen my cup." So when he caught up with them, he repeated these words to them, but they said, "Why does my Lord say such things? Far be it from your servants to do anything like that. We brought back to you from the land of Canaan the silver we found inside our mouths of our sacks. Why would we steal silver or gold or your cups? We didn't steal anything. If any of your servants here is found to have it, he will die, and the rest of us will become my Lord's slaves." Now watch this. This is an interesting response that the brothers made together. The brothers said this: "Listen, why would we steal anything from you? We didn't," okay? They don't know that they've been set up by Joseph, but they're saying, "Why would we steal?" And here's the terms that the brothers say. "Listen, if we are guilty, if we have done something wrong, then we will all be your slaves." And this is an important thing, because typically with the power that the Egyptians had, what they typically would do is say, "Fine, yeah, you're all slaves. You're all guilty. You're all punished." The thing about narcissism is that would not test whether or not they are able to have empathy. That wouldn't. Because what that would allow them all to do is to accept punishment together. They would all be together. They would all be mumbling and grumbling together. That's not what Joseph wanted to see. What Joseph wanted to see is their ability to sacrifice themselves even for another one. This is how you know it's a test. If it wasn't a test, if it was out of revenge, Joseph would have said, "That's fine. Yes, if somebody has it, then you are all guilty and you will all be slaves forever." And this is how you know that would have been out of revenge. Joseph would have taken revenge out on all of them. Joseph wasn't interested in revenge. Joseph was interested in, where are their hearts? I need to see, has empathy developed in them? Have they changed their ways? And so Joseph changes the terms back on them, right? Instead of saying it's all or nothing, in which they're all punished together, which allows for no show of empathy because they're all taking blame together, Joseph wasn't interested in that. He wasn't interested in having them all as slaves. He is only interested in reconciliation, which requires the empathy. So Joseph changes the terms in verse 10. "Very well, then," he said, "let it be as you say. Whoever is found to have it will become my slave. So whoever has the cup will be my slave. The rest of you will be free from any blame." So he changes the terms saying, "I like your idea, except it sucks. Whoever has my cup will be my slave, and the rest of you can be free to go." All right, that's the new terms. Each of them quickly lowered the sack to the ground for it to be open. Then the steward proceeded to search, beginning with the oldest, leading all the way down to the youngest brother, the brother that represents Joseph when his older brothers threw him in the pit. The cup was found in the youngest brother's sack, Benjamin's. Benjamin is not only the youngest brother of all of them, but he's also Joseph's very own blood biological brother. And he purposely put that cup in Benjamin's sack to see and to test how his brothers would respond. And at this, in verse 13, at this, they all tore their clothes. The older brothers tore their clothes, literally. This is something we hear about in the ancient literature, people tearing their clothes. It's when things don't make sense. I think it was just, you know how sometimes we'll go out and yell and scream and shout and punch and whatever out of anger. Back then, they tore their clothes, apparently. They tore their clothes. Tore their clothes. What is this you have done? Don't you know that a man like me can find things out by divination? Verse 16, what can we say, my Lord? Judah replied, what can we say? How can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered your servant's guilt. We are now, my Lord, slaves. Again, they now come back to the authority before them saying, we are now my Lord's slaves. You see, what they're doing as a narcissistic group is they're trying to avoid, they're trying to avoid dealing with their own conscience. They're trying to avoid empathy. And instead, they're saying, we will all bear this punishment together. Narcissists would rather go down together than to think about things to do or rather than sacrifice, right? But that, again, Joseph's not interested in that. So they're saying, we are now my Lord's slaves. We ourselves are the ones who found to have the cup. But Joseph said, again, Joseph comes back at them, setting the terms. In 17, he says, far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man who has the cup will be my slave. In other words, only one is guilty. The rest of you, go home. You're free to go. What Joseph doesn't realize is the amount of pain that their father had experienced because of Joseph being gone, because of what his brothers done. And his brothers had to live their lives seeing the sadness and the sorrow of their father after Joseph's disappearance. Joseph wasn't aware of all this, but he's playing on that within them. All right? And so as a result, and it could also be, there's another aspect of this. It could also be that as Joseph brought in Benjamin to be a slave and sent the other brothers away, perhaps in Joseph's mind, what it could have meant is that Benjamin, being his biological brother, could have inherited Egypt with Joseph. That's another aspect of possibly the thought process behind Joseph. If I can get Benjamin, who's my biological brother, I'll reveal myself to him. I will show him, hey, I'm your biological brother. I'm Joseph. And then they can both inherit the new land, that Egypt, and they could become Egyptians together. And Benjamin, could live that life away from the brothers that threw Joseph in a pit. It's an interesting idea, but it's a possibility. And now this is where it gets very interesting. Joseph said, the rest of you, go back to your father in peace. But it doesn't end there. Then Judah went up to him. Judah is one of the oldest brothers. Judah was one of the ones responsible for throwing Joseph in a pit. He says, pardon your servant, my lord. Let me speak a word to my lord. Do not be angry with your servant. Though you are equal to Pharaoh himself, my lord asked his servants, do you have a father and a brother? And we answered, we have an aged father, and there is a younger son born to him in his old age. His brother is dead, talking about Joseph, and he is the only one of his mother's sons left, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, bring him down so I can see him for myself. And we said to my lord, the boy cannot leave his father. If he leaves him, his father will die. Verse 23, but you told your servants, unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you will not see my face again. When we went back to your servant, my father, we told him that my lord said what my lord had said. Then our father said, go back quickly and buy a little more food. But we said, we cannot go down. Only if the youngest brother, Benjamin, is with us will we go. We cannot see the man's face unless our younger brother is with us. Your servant, my father, said, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One of them went away from me, meaning Joseph. And I said, he has surely been torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. If you take this one, Benjamin, from me too, and harm comes to him, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in misery. Verse 30, so now if the boy is not with us when we go back to your servant, my father, and if my father, whose life is closely bound up with the boy's life, sees that the boy isn't there, he will die. Your servants will bring the gray head of our father down to the grave in sorrow. Your servant guaranteed the boy's safety to my father. I said, if I do not bring him back to you, I will bear the blame before you, my father, all my life. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Verse 33, now then, please, let your servant remain here as my Lord's slave in place of the boy. So what Joseph is now witnessing is one of his older brothers, the very one that threw Joseph in a pit, is now stepping forward saying, please, let me take his place. I will be your servant. Whatever it means, I will be your slave. Throw me in jail by myself. I will live here and rot in Egypt in prison, but please let the little boy go so he can go back to his father. So perhaps Joseph was expecting that. Perhaps he wasn't. Perhaps that was part of the test. Again, perhaps maybe Joseph really just wanted to get Benjamin away from them so that Benjamin could also be an Egyptian like Joseph. There's all kinds of things that could have happened, but as it played out, Joseph is now faced with one of his brothers who initially threw him in a pit, was careless, reckless, narcissistic, selfish, violent, hostile, and rude, now saying, take me instead. Please send the young boy back to his father. Take me. Punish me. Punish me. Now Joseph is faced with the possibility of reconciliation. Now and only now. Verse 34. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would take place. Take me. Take me. This is the sacrifice. This is the sacrifice. And make no mistake about it, this is no small sacrifice. This brother that just spoke up, has said, I will give up my life, basically. I lived as a free man with my brothers and my father, but I can't go back and bear this. So out of empathy for my father and what he wants in life, I will give up the rest of my life. I'll be a slave for you for the rest of my life. That's fine. I'm okay with that. This right there has startled Joseph with a brand new empathy. I'm sure Joseph was looking, saying, wow, that's not like you. That is different. This is the test of reconciliation. So we're going to wrap it up right there. That's the end of the chapter, of chapter 44. And there's a lot that we can gain from this. And again, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, this is a test of reconciliation, not forgiveness. Forgiveness is not inflicting revenge. Joseph was at forgiveness. The moment he realized his power and position, he was able to give them food and send them on their way. That's forgiveness. By the way, that's also, this is important for you to understand, this is also love. Where it says in the New Testament that Jesus says, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, oftentimes we feel as though that means we have to be best friends. We have to reveal ourselves to these people. No, that's not love. Love is displayed. If you want to know what love your enemies means, it's displayed by what Joseph just did. The ones who rejected him and got rid of him, the narcissistic brothers, are in desperate need or they'll starve. Their family is in need or they'll starve. Love is simply Joseph not even revealing who he is, but saying, fill their bags with food, be on your way. That right there is forgiveness. That is you not wanting to see anybody else hurt or suffer no matter what they did to you. This is a perfect example of what forgiveness is. It's not about coming together and hugging it out. Keep in mind, Joseph did not even reveal himself. So that has nothing to do with forgiveness. Forgiveness is just not taking revenge. In order to be able to forgive, in order to be able to love your enemies, you have to understand who you are and your position. That's it. And then you don't want to take revenge out. Joseph displayed forgiveness. Now, reconciliation, where Joseph reveals who he is to his brothers, that's different. Notice Joseph did not even reveal who he is until this test, until putting his brothers through the emotional turmoil of wanting to take away the youngest brother again and to see if their hearts were still in that, well, we don't care, we're all that matters attitude, or if they stop and go, no, 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 we can't. Listen, take me instead. Take me. No, no, I'm not going to live. I'm not going to live like that. I'm not going to do that. I can't. I can't. Take me, punish me, whatever, whip me, but send the young boy. He's innocent. He did nothing wrong. Send him back home. Even if he did something wrong, I'll take the blame. This is when Joseph says, wow, wow, perhaps there's a change. Maybe now I can reveal who I am to you because you've changed, right? So understand, Joseph has already reached a level of forgiveness, but this test was for reconciliation. This test was just to see if he can reveal who he is to him. Let's, as we go forward and we are practicing going no contact from certain toxic people in our lives, from narcissistic family members, brothers and sisters and parents who we are trying to get away from, exes, people who we share children with, whatever the case may be. Let's understand the difference of forgiveness. Forgiveness is we do the right thing, but we don't have to reveal any of ourselves to them. However you're living your life, whatever you're doing, you don't reveal that. That's not forgiveness. You simply do the right thing at the right time. Don't even consider reconciliation unless the time arises where you're able to test and see their true heart, which may be never for many of us. But I also want to keep you in mind that this situation right here was most likely 14 plus years after Joseph was rejected by his brothers. We're talking about a long time. And Joseph still has to test them. So let's not think for a moment that we need to start going back and testing our siblings who we left a year ago because it's not going to work out, okay? And there needs to be a lot of factors in place here. One, you need to know who you are. Joseph was second in command of Egypt. He had a new life. Before you ever even consider reconciliation with toxic people, you need to have a new life established because there's the possibility that it will do nothing. Joseph had multiple reasons for doing this. One, he could have kept Benjamin and allowed Benjamin to his biological brother to inherit Egypt with him. Okay? Come to think of it, that was probably his plan. I am willing to bet that Joseph set the youngest brother up so that the youngest brother would be brought into Egypt and Joseph would tell the older brothers, go on, be free. And then Joseph would reveal himself to Benjamin and say, Benjamin, I got you away from your brothers. You can have now inherited the land of Egypt with me. You can be a high position, or you don't have to. You can go back to your father if you would like. But this is available to you, right? That could have been one of the possible reasons. But as it played out, the brothers suddenly grew massive amounts of empathy and instead stepped in and said, no, I will take punishment by myself if you allow the young boy to go back to his father. And so maybe Joseph was hoping for that. Maybe it caught him off guard. Either way, it's a bridge to reconciliation. Again, you can't make somebody change. You'll never be able to make another person change. This isn't a story of Joseph making his brothers apologize, making them see their wrongs. Joseph didn't do that. How do we know that? Because they still don't even know it's Joseph. Joseph just set a stage where he can see if change has taken place. With that, we'll wrap it up. I hope that this has encouraged and inspired and has spoken to some of you out there in your situations. And I want to invite you guys to follow Royal We throughout the week. I'm going to be uploading some new videos on the Organic Royal We channel. You can find the links to the Royal We channels down below in the description box. And again, Shabbat Shalom. I'm so happy that you are here. Have a blessed weekend, everybody. I know this was a long message, and I hope that again, with the way I'm presenting this, it's you're able to follow along with it. And there's a lot of powerful stuff in these stories. Invite your friends, invite your family, those who would like to look at this different perspective of what's taking place on an individual level throughout these Bible stories. What's taking place as we follow people like you and like me who also are navigating this world of toxicity, navigating through a world of evil, of narcissistic abuse, of trauma from their own siblings, from their own parents, from their own brothers and sisters. This is the world we live in, and this is why the Royal We Fellowship is here. And with that, be blessed, everybody. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll be back next Saturday morning for Royal We Fellowship.